All right, I'd like to call to order the March 14th, 2022 meeting of the Lowell Historic Board. First item on the agenda is the public hearing for Dlhd-22-24, 733 to 735 Broadway Street. We'll note that the applicant has requested a continuance of this agenda item for next month's or for a future hearing. So we'll not be having any presentation or discussion about this item. And we'll need a vote to continue the agenda item for the next meeting.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, that passes. Thank you very much. That ends the public hearing section of our meeting, and we can move to approval of the minutes from the February 14th, 2022 meeting. Anyone have any comments or edits to make on those minutes? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Passes. All right, we can now move on to other business. Steve, do you have anything to update us on?
Everything in the packet is for informational purposes and can be included in the record.
Okay.
One person that's joined us tonight is Dlhd from the National Park Service, their historical architect. Originally, he was going to be with us on the public hearing to provide some more information about the project. But David, we wanted to both welcome him and wish him good luck because he's leaving within the next few days. So I thought it'd be nice for David, to jump in and at least say a few words, and we can all wish him well.
David?
David, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm David Lieb. I am the historical architect for Lowell National Historical Park, at least for another 4 days. And then I will be departing the park and joining our Denver Service Center as a project manager. Been working with the Denver Service Center for many years and private contracts as a government contractor. So the opportunity presented itself for a remote opportunity versus having to move to Denver, which used to be the case in the past. And they already have a nice GOA project lined up for me in the Midwest. And I'll probably be mostly working on projects in New England and up and down the Eastern Seaboard, and possibly even on some continued projects at Lowell. So hope to see you all again on future projects, but I appreciate the opportunity to say hello. And we met with Steve a couple weeks ago, and during that conversation, we talked a lot about it was an introductory session with our new superintendent, Julie Galonska. And it was a really interesting conversation for about an hour and a half. And we talked a lot about the important work that the historic board does in Lowell and sort of our ongoing, very long-term ongoing working relationship, at least behind the scenes with the historical architect, and then also with our seat on the historic board, which has been occupied by Lisa Cassidy for most of last year. And I appreciate the opportunity to just sort of recognize the value and responsibility that the historic board has maintaining the status quo as far as preservation in the city, along with the National Park Service. So, Steve, I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to working with you all in the future, as I have over the last 2 years.
Great, thanks, David. We definitely wish you well, and again, we look forward to maybe seeing you around Lowell again in future projects. I just want to acknowledge the wonderful service that you've provided to us in terms of the design review you've done for a variety of projects around the city. I think the role of the National Park Service architect, while it's not a formal one, it really provides a very important objective viewpoint into and providing feedback to the various folks who come before us. And I think we've seen a lot of improved designs come about due to the input that you and others who have sat in your role before have brought to the table. So we appreciate you continuing to do that in your role, in your time here in Lowell, and appreciate the Park Service making your services available to us.
Thank you.
No, I'd like to thank David for his work with us and his guidance, and I still have his email, so you never know. You may find something in your inbox that says, "David, what do you think about this? Give me your ideas."
Yeah,
I'm regretting keeping my phone number as I transition to my new role, but hopefully it won't be.
You have called my cell, and I have it, so.
There you go. I have to say it was, the first time I met Steve was actually on the Lord Overpass project. And, we were out there looking at granite samples, trying to remember what time of year it was, but we were well into the pandemic by then. And it was kind of a surreal experience to be standing around wearing masks, not being able to actually see the people that you were working directly with. And then looking at granite samples, being on site, having just sort of this, unusual condition presented to us. But we powered through, and there have been a lot of interesting projects that have come before the board in the time that I've been as in the role of historic architect, and I think it also shows the commitment by the community. How willing they are to work with the board and to work with the Park Service as well, and see these projects materialize and change in good ways, and hopefully be good stewards, for preservation in Lowell.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that was interesting was the pandemic sort of changed a little bit of how we do design review. It used to be,
Right.
We would go to the Park Service and, we'd be with David's predecessor, Charlie Tonetti, whom a lot of you met, and prior to that, Chuck Parrott. And, we had to shift gears to Zoom platform. And I think what we've seen is using Zoom, it has its benefits, I think, and we've seen that in presentations for the board by architects who can sketch up in real time when someone has a question. I recall, I think, Jim's question about 78 Middlesex Street a few meetings ago about the elevator overrun, and the architect was able to just sketch it up on the screen, and it was really good. And I think another project I'll have to mention that David was able to get up on site a few times was the in the summer of 20 was the boot clock tower and adjacent stair tower work, and we were out there several times with the contractor, and because the park, it would be for the board, but the park also has a deed restriction on those towers, so it was twofold. Right. It was killing the proverbial two birds with one stone. So that was a fun project for David and I think, to be on, and it was climbing up the scaffolding, and it's about 99 degrees up there, and we're on the roof and with masks on.
But what a view! What a view from the roof of the boot.
Anyway, that was a really fun project, and although that wasn't something that came before the board as it was routine maintenance and upkeep, it was something that was very intricately looked at in terms of the details. I remember that David and I, the initial proposal for that was something that was it was a lot of overkill, let's say that, a lot of composites, and we looked at it right away, and I think, David, we saved the project owner money because it resulted in far less intrusion and more authentic work, I think.
Right, and as a result, they also pursued grant funding as well. So they hired a consultant out of Rhode Island, and it's another great example of sort of the partnerships that we maintain within the city, working towards preservation. So it's Steve, great example to bring up.
Well, David, thank you again, and I'm sure we'll be in touch, either on a project you have directly in Lowell or one that I'm going to enlist you as part of the alumni group on.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you all.
Thanks, David.
As I said, the rest of this is primarily informational, but I did want to pass around one of our newly minted open and close signs.
Oh, nice.
So,
We haven't seen those.
yeah, we've started again. I mean, again, as you've seen in the write-up prior, that those date to 1989. It was one of the board's earliest outreach and engagement efforts in the community. So I passed out another 2 today, which resulted in 2 more crept-in lit open signs being removed. So that was pretty good. But I got some more suction cups I've got to pick up tonight on the way home, and so they get one of those signs and a suction cup, and free of charge, and you're not required to use it, but I think it's a nice little touch for,
Yeah, it's a nice little carrot.
you know, so, any event. But that's really all I have. Note that the continuation of the public hearing for that applicant, we may have a special meeting sometime in the next 2 weeks, just because the applicant would like to have everything hopefully wrapped up prior to a planning board meeting that's been continued for several months. So, in any event, we'll look again some more materials in. There'll be some supplemental information on that application coming in, well in advance of, that special meeting.
We haven't had a special meeting in quite a while, so I think we appreciate that doesn't usually happen and understand when it's necessary.
It has to be a special occasion for that, really. I mean, and I tell people that the board is very good at being flexible. There's a time constraint or a requirement that they need to meet, that the board will occasionally do this, but it happens rarely, maybe once every year or 2, if that.
Any items the board members want to bring up before we make a motion to adjourn?
I haven't checked this myself, but somebody just pointed out to me that on the website for the Historic Board, some of the commissioners' schedules or appointments need to be updated.
Jeffrey's fully reappointed by his commissioner. Jim, you and Kerry Kerry was renominated. The letter is missing. That was from a year ago. And you weren't acted on, so I have to follow up with someone on that. George has been renominated by the chamber, and as has Troy from the BSA, the AIA. And both of those letters I'm going to track. Hopefully get those 2 at least on the council agenda, very soon for the re-upping on that. Kerry's, I have to find the letter. It went to the manager's office. If not, I'll have to request another letter from the Bar Association. But yeah, there were a couple of holdovers that some more recent than others, but it's being addressed.
Okay.
All right, anything else? Dick or Carrie?
Nothing from me.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right, we'll see everyone at the next meeting. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.